Welcome back to another Pokemon Tabletop video, another Regidrago video. I had a League Cup on the weekend, and I still haven't capped out my League Cup, so I'm trying to go and win a League Cup. I'm going to play the best deck in the game. We're going to go play Regidrago. Here's the list I've been playing. If you've been watching any of my tournament ride-alongs so far, you know this is the list. This time I am rocking the Halucha. I am currently pretty set on this, and there's no canceling Cologne. I texted my good buddy Jackson Ford to see if he was coming to the League Cup. If he was, I would have played Canceling Cologne. Jackson, if you're watching this, stop playing Blocklax at our local League Cups. But anyways, we play our Regidrago deck. A pretty long video, as we obviously do fairly well in this League Cup. And with that in mind, let's just get right into the video. In round one, we run into a Duraludon deck, which I was actually really excited to play against. I've seen some people talking about this deck on Twitter, saying it beats Drago, saying they're doing well at their cups and challenges with it and whatnot. So I was excited to get a chance to play against it. In this one, we're going to be going second, which is kind of a big deal. It's really bad when our opponent just gets to take 2 prizes for free at the start of the game. Additionally, when we start Regidrago, it means we're not going to be able to get into the Cleffa. So that's really what makes this bad. Otherwise, going second would be completely okay, right? Like you start Ogerpon or whatever, you get into the Cleffa, and then you're chilling. But when we start the Drago here, we're going to need to find a switch here. And we just go ahead, bench a Drago, get an energy on it, and Iono. Pretty sure our active Regidrago is just going to be dying. Our friend Max here already has 2 metal energies in the discard, so he doesn't really need very much in order to get that KO. Now, we draw into an interesting hand here. I have 1 Ultra Ball and nothing else. I have like an Iono and a Research, and I actually opted to just not do anything in this spot, which I think was somewhat of a mistake. My idea was that if I go Ultra Ball for Ogerpon, Teal Dance on my next turn, it's pretty likely I might whiff the attack, so I decided to hold the Ultra Ball for Pheasantipede. I felt like that would increase my odds of attacking on turn 2, but what I failed to see is that these Dura decks play Iron Bundle, and so Max is going to punish me pretty hard here. He's going to play down the Iron Bundle, and I'm going to be forced to send up my Regidrago with the energy. And now, because I didn't Ultra Ball for the Ogerpon, I have to promote another Regidrago V on the next turn with no energy, and it's really unlikely I'm going to be able to even get an attack off here with this Regidrago V. So we're in a pretty rough spot here. We're pretty much going to need to sack like double Ogerpon, double E-Switch, whatever, or like switch into Cleffa. And when I do my prize check here, I actually realized that I've prized 2 Ogerpon EX, so the attack this turn is impossible. I've also prized Radiant Charizard, which is going to be really annoying. That's a pretty key comeback card in this matchup, especially when you're going down 2 prizes, potentially 4 prizes so quickly like this. And at this point, I definitely wish that I got down the Ogerpon on turn 1. I think I got a little bit in my own head thinking that saving my Ultra Ball for like a V-Star or a Fez would be better, but just keep it simple, get the Ogerpon, draw some cards, get some energy in play, and that would have put me in a much better spot. But we're going to keep fighting. We're still in this game. We're playing the best comeback deck in the game, so I'm feeling cautiously optimistic that we can win this game. We're not down any of our key resources, and this Dura deck is really weak to Iono, right? There's just about no draw engine in play. There's a Radiant Greninja, and I'm sure Max has got a Pheasantipede in his deck as well, but not much else. So if we can maybe get some good Ionos later on in the game, we are definitely still in it. We get down our only Ogerpon, which is kind of huge, and we evolve our Drago V into Drago V-Star, which is really important right now. This Regidrago V-Star can maybe soak up a hit while it's in the active. It won't just get one shot and put Max down to 2 prizes on like turn 3 of the game. We get an energy down, and I think I'm about to use Iron Bundle. I should have used Iron Bundle before attaching. Just want to give Max as little information as possible. But he pretty quickly sends up the Ninja, so I imagine he would have done that anyways. We move our energy onto our Drago to protect it, right? We know our Regidrago V-Star can't be knocked out here. And then we just go ahead and pass off the turn. We're hoping Max actually just doesn't even attack this turn. I think it's completely plausible that like his 4 cards are just terrible and they might not even have an energy in them. Maybe that's a little bit optimistic, but I definitely think it's possible with no draw engine. But we see he draws a Research, so he's probably going to be able to get an attack off here. At least we won't be seeing like an attachment to retreat and then also a boss's orders on the Ogerpon. That's really what I wanted to kind of guard myself from. Of course, it's pretty reasonable for him to have a research, but it's pretty unreasonable for him to have an energy and a boss off of this Ionophore, so at least we're kind of protecting ourselves from that. We see the Dialga V come down, which honestly, I was really hyped to see that Dialga V come down. I think that was probably a little bit of a mistake from Max. We see the Scoop Up Cyclone as well, getting him into the Dura there. It's nice to see him use the Scoop Up Cyclone as opposed to maybe just having like an energy to retreat, but he also Night Stretchers for bundle, and so that's really annoying. It's going to get him 2 prizes. I had Halucha in my hand at one point. I probably should have put that down so that I didn't get got by bundle twice, but I guess I didn't learn from my mistake there, and we get hit by the bundle again. I guess I just didn't really think Max played a lot of Night Stretcher. I'm actually still not really sure how many Night Stretchers these Duradex play, so I'll probably go look into that after this game, but we're in a rough spot here. We're going to be looking to Prime Catcher up the Dialga. You see the Prime Catcher at the top of my hand there. So the idea here is Prime Catcher up the Dialga. Maybe go for Phantom Dive or Goodra. Play an Iono. Hopefully it stalls Max out for a turn. And then on the next turn, we can... I think what's really optimal here is like Phantom Dive, 20 damage on everything. And then we can like bring in a Dura, use Loss Impact on it. And then maybe from there, we can draw into the Radiant Charizard off the prizes. Or maybe we could just like go Phantom Dive this turn, and then next turn we just kill the Dialga, and then draw the Radzard. We're really going to need the Radzard here. That's kind of what I'm playing towards. And we go ahead, we play the Iono, and we actually end up whiffing the Grass Energy here, which puts us in a really awkward spot. Now, I do have a Switch in my hand, so I Nest Ball for Cleffa here, I think. Or maybe I think I actually have the Cleffa in hand. And so I'm thinking in this spot, like, maybe it's not terrible to Cleffa. We Iono'd Max to 2. He's already used his Scoop Up Cyclone. He's probably got like 2 Turos in his deck. And if he doesn't draw a Turo here, like, what is he really doing? So I go ahead, I get the Cleffa, I switch into it, and then I Mew for 3. And we actually hit the Grass Energy here, but my hand is like completely dead. And I really wanted to have a Boss's Orders in order to follow up, right? The idea was like Phantom Dive, and then we can like Loss Impact the other Dura next turn. And my hand was just completely dead here, so I just decided to use Cleffa. This is an interesting spot. I think maybe it was just correct to go for the Phantom Dive here and rely on Mew to draw me some cards in the future. I could also like Phantom Dive this turn, then next turn just kill the Dialga. But in the moment, for some reason, I really didn't want to be killing the Dialga. I wanted to go like Phantom Dive, and then I wanted to kill a Dura with Impact. I thought that was better, but I think in hindsight, I could have just gone for the Phantom Dive there, and then on the next turn, just kill the Dialga, and that probably would have been okay. But we go for the Cleffa here, kind of just banking on the fact that Max draws like a completely dead hand here, especially we definitely want to be avoiding Turo, and we see him play Iono, so that's pretty good for us. No research, no Turo, and I think he's just going to go ahead and pass it off to us after the Iono, and that definitely means our Cleffa was wasted, so maybe a bit of bias from me, knowing I got Iono there anyways. Could have got away with an attack, but this turn, we're definitely going to be going for the attack. We've got a pretty full hand, and we don't want to just keep giving Max free turns to draw into like Turo, Boss's Orders, maybe another Archaludon at this point could get some energies onto this Dialga, so that's a little bit threatening. We go ahead, play out our hand, draw a couple cards with Mew, and again, I draw into a pretty terrible hand. I don't have access to Boss or Prime or Iono or really anything useful. I think my hand is like Energy, E-Switch, something bad. And so I'm like debating the Cleffa again, but I end up deciding now that I can't keep giving Max free turns to just draw out of this, especially now with the Archaludon on the bench. We're a little bit threatened by just like evolve into Archaludon, maybe evolve into Dialga V-Star, and then just like start attacking. That doesn't sound good, but this Archaludon also gives us an opportunity here of Curaming. So like next turn, we could like impact the Dura on the bench, and then we could have Curamed the Dialga, the Ninja, and the Little Dura. And so that was a really interesting prize map that I was actually really excited for. I thought it was going to work, and then he just has Turo here, which is really annoying. Completely ruins this 4-prize Curum idea, which would have let me win into attacks, right? If he didn't have Turo or Boss there, I think I actually would have just like won the game by going like Curum and then impact the Dura for game, or maybe I like draw Radzard off prize. I can Radzard a Dura for game, but now again, we are in a really rough spot. He also doesn't rebench the Dialga V, which I think is really smart here. I would probably just stall it again. And of course, we can't leave the damaged Regidrago V-Star in the active, so we're probably going to be retreating into Cleffa this turn. Now, at this point, I'm just kind of playing to survive. I don't really know what my route to actually win is. I think at this point, it would have to be like, you know what? I think at this point, the game is just completely over. I don't think I have a map to come back. If I had Radzard here, maybe I could win. But when I just have nothing here, I think I'm just kind of trying not to lose at this point. He's just going to kill the Cleffa here. And then like we couldn't even Radzard even if we drew it. And he just has the boss and the energy to close out the game anyway. So a little bit of an awkward game. Definitely some opportunities for me to play better. That one turn where I didn't Ultra Ball for the Ogre Pawn, and then the one turn I Cleffa'd in the end game. Maybe could have just gone for the attack, especially because we're in a losing position. Got to take some risks. So I think I would have liked to see myself attack on that turn and Ultra Ball for the Ogre Pawn on turn 2. After losing round 1, we run into Alan. Alan's going to be playing Regidrago as well. We win the coin flip, and we opt to go first. I knew Alan was playing Regidrago, and I actually still like going first in this matchup, especially with the Iron Bundle. I know a lot of people have been going second. I've been trying both, and currently I still like going first. Now, I could be persuaded, but for now, I call first, and I'm feeling pretty good when I get 2 energies on my Regidrago V. I'm hoping on turn 2, I'm assuming Alan's going to use Cleffa here, and then I'm going to go ahead and use Bundle, get the Cleffa to the bench, and get the first attack off. But Alan has a little bit of a rough start here. He takes a little long on the deck search, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was like, oh, shoot, that's interesting, or something like that. So I figured his Squawkabilly was prized, and that's what he was going for. And after the game, he told me the Squawkabilly was prized there. So he just goes ahead and uses Teal Dance and passes off the turn. You can see his hand there. Pretty dead. It was like Vessel, V-Star Energy or something. I think in that situation, if I was him, I would have just got Cleffa instead of Teal Mask and like retreated into it and used Grasping Draw. At least then you get to play the game. Maybe I have like a bad turn and then he can capitalize. But it doesn't look like I'm going to have a bad turn here. I've got a couple energy cards. Interestingly, though, I had this Iono as my supporter for turn. And the plan here was just like Ultra Ball for like Regidrago V-Star, attach to the V-Star, play Iono. But when Alan has such a weak turn 1, I decide my Regidrago V isn't in any danger. His hand is pretty clearly terrible. And I have this Cleffa, so why not just go ahead and use Cleffa? I didn't want to like play Iono with V-Star, and then Alan like pops off, has a great turn 2, and get some Dragos down and such, and then I actually find myself in a bad spot. So I just go ahead and Cleffa, and I'm honestly prepared to just keep Cleffa-ing if I need to. I need to get an attacker in the discard here, preferably Goodra. That way I can protect my Regidrago V-Star. Yep, there's going to be the Ultra Ball. It's going to get me that Goodra. Going to go ahead, Ultra Ball it away, get the Drago V-Star, and we're going to get attacking here, and this is already looking pretty grim for Alan. We've got the backup Drago down as well, and I imagine, oh my goodness, I forgot, we also have a research, so our deck is just firing on all cylinders here after this use of Cleffa, and Alan is in a very, very rough spot. From here on out, he doesn't really draw too much, but if he were to top deck a research here, I don't even really know if he could come back. My board is so developed, but to set up a second Regidrago V-Star, I've got a bunch of energies in play, and I think even if he were to like top deck research, Cleffa, double Drago, all that, I'm just too far ahead at this point. I use the bundle, just continuing to play cautiously. I don't want to take prizes here and get Iono'd into like some terrible hand or something randomly, so just go ahead, hit the Ogre Pawn for 200. You'll see the Hawlucha at the top of my hand. So my plan next turn is to just Hawlucha, potentially kill both of these Pokemon if they go to the bench. If not, I can just Hawlucha one of them and then kill the other one with Goodra. And we see Alan go in with the Teal Mask, get a bit of an attack off, and then I just go ahead, Hawlucha the Fez, and clean up the Ogre Pawn for a little bit of a quick win. Sorry to Alan, who had some rough draws in this one. After a quick round 2, we run into another Dura. This time it's our friend Tim. He's been playing this deck a lot locally, and he made a tweet saying that this deck beats Regidrago, so we're looking to prove him wrong here, and our chances of doing so dramatically increase when we just top deck research. I let Tim know I had a completely dead hand. It's got to be one of like the best Pokemon tournament feelings, right? You're playing for your tournament life, one more loss, and you can't make top 8 or win the event. You look down at your dead hand, it feels completely awful, and then bang, you just top deck research and we're back in the game. So especially now that I top decked this research, Tim had a pretty slow start, right? He just attached to his Dura and passed. His hand could be completely dead. He could have a supporter card, though, so we definitely could be playing a real game here. But I definitely consider it a possibility that maybe I don't need to have such a strong start. Additionally, this time our Radzard isn't prized, but it is in the active, which is not really where we want it to be. It's going to mean we're probably going to have a slow start, right? We're not going to be able to attack unless we find Switch or Prime. Recently, I feel like Switch and Prime are so important. I almost want to play like a second Switch or a Turo or something to just get a little bit better mobility. I've been noticing like Gardevoir decks can take advantage of the lack of mobility you have. Starting Radzard, starting Regidrago V is game losing in a lot of situations. So I might be looking to get another switching card into my deck, but we go ahead, we research. We weren't interested in attaching an energy to our Radiant Charizard. We figure it might get knocked out, and getting an attachment on a Regidrago would be more valuable. Now we draw into Squawkabilly and Prime Catcher, which lets us get this Radzard out of our active, which is super hype. And of course, we discarded a few energies off that initial research, so we're going to get a nice Squawk and Seize off onto our Drago, or not a Squawk and Seize, a Motivate. And this also sets up this Dialga to potentially be knocked out by like a Goodra or a Polt. But of course, that's not going to happen once it becomes a V-Star. It is vulnerable now to like Goodra and then maybe like Phantom Dive, snipe it on the bench. So this 20 damage is not completely irrelevant, but we see Tim Pokegears. He gets an Iono, and it looks like otherwise he would have had a completely dead start. So a little bit of life for Tim in this game. We'll love to see it, a little more of a competitive game going on here. Both of us having some mediocre setups, I would say. And we're kind of just hoping that Tim doesn't get like 2 Metal Energy in the discard plus Archaludon. That would let him just knock out our Squawkabilly. Now, if that happened, we wouldn't feel completely terrible about it, right? We could just lost impact this Dialga V-Star in response, and then potentially look to use Radzard to take on the Archaludon EXs, hit them for weakness, use our bundle to turn off the effect of their attack that makes them have no weakness, and then maybe like a Prime Catcher or a Boss, and we can blow up those Duras pretty effectively. But we see a very slow start from Tim there. He nest balls, and he takes a long time on his nest ball, and then he gets a Dura. So at this point, I'm pretty convinced that Radiant Greninja is prized. He also wasn't interested in getting Pheasantipede, so I kind of think he has more Pokemon Search in his hand, maybe like more nest balls, some Ultra Balls maybe. And overall, I just felt like Tim's hand was kind of weak here. I couldn't describe exactly why, but I just felt like Tim's body language was really like sad and dejected, and I just kind of had a read here that he had a really, really bad hand. And so I actually end up making a bit of a read off of this. I think objectively, just loss impacting this Dialga is probably the best play, but if Tim has a completely terrible hand, I can Goodra, and then if he does nothing, I get to follow that up with a Phantom Dive, and I can put 20 damage on all the Duraludons, which I thought was really valuable. And if I impact this Dialga, you'll notice I have no energies in my hand, so I might actually not be able to attack on the next turn. Additionally, it would give Tim access to Pheasantipede, which I didn't really like, so I could imagine a situation where like I impact here, and then Tim uses Fez and like makes some Duras and like punches me for 220, and then on my next turn I just go like draw pass, or like I have to flip my V-Star, which just like didn't sound like a very attractive option to me. So instead of going for the lost impact here, I just use Goodra, and with the idea of next turn I can either, of course, do what I said, Phantom Dive 20 on all the Duras, or I could also like use Bundle and take a 3 prize turn. At the time when I used Goodra here, I was thinking I was going to Bundle and take the 3 prize turn, but that actually is just bad because then I go on prizes, some Duras come out, they have no damage on them, and then it's a little bit concerning. And so my read was actually right here. Tim's hand is pretty mid. He's got an Ultra Ball, so that could let him get maybe a Dura out here. It also would have got him the Pheasantipede, right? His Ninja's prized, so he can't get the Ninja. And so he decides here to just save the Ultra Ball for Pheasantipede, assuming I'm going to knock something out on the next turn. He can use that Ultra Ball, get Fez, and begin to play the game. So felt pretty good about this. Now we're feeling a lot more stable. We can go ahead and Phantom Dive. Our Regidrago is still under no pressure of being knocked out. We would have loved to have some energy cards there, but I think this is going to be completely okay. We get some damage on all the Duras, and now from here, the game is pretty much over in my opinion. We're just going to be looking to impact one Archaludon EX, and then the next one can die to maybe another Lost Impact or potentially Radzard. Now we've also got this Pheasantipity, which can die to Radzard. So lots of options for us to close out this game, and we're probably going to get to a spot in the end game where we still have our V-Star power up. So feeling really good about this. Tim's going to go ahead, bench the Dialga. That is a little bit threatening, right? For example, he could go knock out Ogerpon here, take 2, and then on his next turn, he could like pop off Crazy and like bring up Squawkabilly, Star Chronos, and then bring up Regidrago, blow it up with a big Full Metal Blast. Now, that does sound kind of absurd, but it is at least a little bit threatening, and definitely something I'm thinking about in the spot. You see the boss's orders at the top of my hand. That's going to be reserved for that Dialga V. And we're going to go ahead and bench Fez. That's going to give us a bit more stability on our board. We get an additional energy down onto our Drago on the bench. And at this point, our hand is loaded. We got like E-Switches, Ultra Ball, Nest Ball, a bunch of useful stuff in there. And we're just going to go ahead, kill this Dialga, go down to 2 prizes, and set up somewhat of a checkmate position. I don't think it's like literally checkmate, but given the contents of our hand here, we are going to be able to win the game on the next turn. And no matter what, we're going to have access to Pheasantipity. Once Tim kills something, we're going to have access to our Regidrago V-Star power. I guess maybe he could like pass here with a 1-prizer in the active and try to set up for some kind of big Dialga play on the next turn. But we're not going to see any of that. Tim's just going to kind of take a second here and realize that he's not in a good spot. I don't think he even has an Iono. So I think he goes ahead and like plays his research and then concedes shortly after. And that's going to be it. We're going to be 2-1, and we're going to go into round 4. In round 4, we run into our buddy Charles. Charles is also going to be playing Regidrago, and Charles is a good player. So we're a little afraid in this one, and we know Charles is also playing the Iron Bundle, so we don't have that advantage to us. Now the camera angle in this one is a little bit off, so we're not going to be able to see Charles's discard pile for most of the game, but we're just going to have to make do with the angle we've got. On turn 1, he attaches to Fez and passes, and I know you guys might be thinking, oh, this is just going to be another game where I run over the other person as they dead draw, but Charles ends up getting out of this one, so I go ahead, start my turn, I use Earthen Vessel, and I noticed that I prized 4 Grass Energies, an E-Switch, and a Pheasantipity, so pretty strange. Not the best prizes, but not like the worst ever either. We can manage. We've got 3 Grass Energies. Something that's pretty significant though is that 3 Grass Energies is not enough energies to set up 2 Regidrago V-Stars at once. So I'll never be able to have the stability of 2 V-Stars at once if I don't take any prizes. Now, when I do prize 4 Grass Energies, there's 2 things that come to mind. One, I probably need to draw some prize cards. A lot of the times in Regidrago Mirror, you just try to take all 6 of your prizes at once, but with this many energies in my prizes, I feel like I'll probably have to take some prizes. And when I take those prizes, surely I'll get a Grass Energy, so at least I can kind of bank on that. Now, because Charles didn't get down a Regidrago V, I'm able to take a pretty slow turn here, just go ahead, grab Cleffa. Now, my hand was like Ultra Ball, V-Star, Prime Catcher, E-Switch, which was really awkward because I didn't want to Ultra Ball any of those cards away. And then I could only Cleffa for 3, so I'm not sure if I was supposed to play Ultra Ball there and like discard some of the cards, but we end up just going for a relatively weak Cleffa. And Charles pops off. He has a supporter in hand of research. He gets down some basics. He's going to get some teal masks. Now he lets me know here that he actually prized Cleffa. So that's really good for us. It's going to mean he can't really generate value in these kind of turns where we're passing back and forth. He's likely to have to leave 2 prize Pokemon in the active, which makes my life a lot easier. And it's going to make it really unlikely that he can actually attack on the next turn without flipping his V-Star and with a gusting effect. Now with Iron Bundle though, I guess it does get a lot more reasonable that he could just attack on the next turn. And that's what he does. He Nest Balls for the Iron Bundle, and because he doesn't have Cleffa, he's actually just going to retreat into the bundle, which I thought was a bit interesting. I think I actually probably wouldn't have done that. I think knowing, like Charles also knows that I play Iron Bundle, so it's really not that hard for me to have, like if I have Regidrago and all the energies and an attacker, it's not that much harder for me to have a bundle. And I think that maybe an attachment on a Regidrago V on the bench, or maybe even just like an attachment to the Fez so it can retreat, would have been a little bit stronger. Right now he's got another Pokemon kind of sort of stuck in the active. It's going to cost him an energy attachment to get it out of there. So I definitely understand kind of wanting to be a little bit defensive here, but I think the risk of just kind of saying I don't have it is a little warranted here. Over to my turn, I'm playing an Ultra Ball. I debate getting Mew EX here, but I don't want to lock out my bench. You see there's an Ogerpon in my hand, and I didn't want to bench lock myself out of Iron Bundle. Of course, like right now, I do have Prime Catcher in hand, so I'm probably not going to need Bundle, but if I got randomly Iono'd, and then I'm board locked, and then I can't use Iron Bundle, my Prime Catcher's on the bottom of the deck, and then it's like, I probably will just have to Cleffa on the next turn again. So I decided to just leave that bench spot open for a potential Iron Bundle. Just use the Ultra Ball to kind of thin my hand. And then I go ahead and Cleffa. Over to Charles' turn, he develops his board a bit, gets a V-Star down, some energies in play, and he actually opted to not V-Star on that turn, which I think is a close call. Like on one hand, if he flips his V-Star and he gets like a bad discard, the game's probably over on the spot. But if he hits like Prime Catcher, then he's in a really good spot. And at this point, my board is like so developed that it might have been warranted for him to just flip his V-Star there and try to get an attack off, because now I go for the Prime Catcher, I rip the Research, a little bit of resources go into the discard there. You saw a Boss and I believe an E-Switch. Additionally, when I play that Prime Catcher, I put my Drago in the active, which means I'm committed to attacking here. Right when I Research now, and you'll notice I don't have E-Switch in hand, well, I'm pretty committed to just flipping my V-Star here to hit the E-Switch. So when I play the Prime Catcher, I know if I whiff, I have to V-Star. And so now I'm kind of thinking about it, but mostly I'm just upset about it. I know I have to V-Star here. I don't think you could ever afford to just like pass here and let your Drago get killed. Maybe you could. In hindsight, I also think maybe I should have just like Prime Catchered up the Drago and sent up my Teal Mask. And then that way I'm not so committed to this play where I have to V-Star. So I don't know, maybe a bit too aggressive here, but we end up flipping the V-Star and we get the E-Switch. I think especially with Charles playing Iron Bundle, this is worse. Like if Charles wasn't playing Iron Bundle here, my Drago is really safe, right? He would need to go Prime Catcher Boss in order to impact my Drago, but now he just needs to bundle Prime Catcher. He needs Prime Catcher anyways to get his Drago out of the active, and then I would just be put in a rough spot, right? Like no V-Star, no energies in play. A lot of my energies are prized. I would probably need to find Super Rod, or I would definitely need to find Super Rod because I literally don't have enough grass energies to attack with a Drago. So I'm not sure how I got to this position. I feel like maybe the play was to just set up Ogerpon and accept the fact that I might not attack again, right? Like Charles isn't really generating value here. He just had like Iron Bundle in the active awkwardly, so it's not like he's using Cleffa to draw a bunch of cards. And we see him just go for it. He rips the V-Star here, definitely looking for Prime Catcher, and I probably get completely owned if he finds it, but he actually whiffs the Prime Catcher here, so a little bit of a breath of life for me. And now he's the one in an awkward spot, right? He's flipped his V-Star. He doesn't really have a good attack here. At least he milled the switch, right? So that's going to let him switch in the Drago V-Star. I think in the discard, he's got like Egg and Gudra. I think that's maybe all he's got in the discard at this point. I don't think he's got the Tina yet, so not that he could kill me anyways. I used Gudra. Yeah, we see him get back, I believe it was the Rod and the Switch, so get some energies back there, and he's going to get into his Drago and get an attack off, so he's at least in the game here. I have flipped my V-Star power. I only have one Drago set up, so this is definitely still a very, very live game. And I think I'm also down to just one or two gusting effects left. I think I have one Boss and, of course, my Prime Catcher, which I recovered with my V-Star power. They're both in my hand, actually, right now, which is a little bit awkward, to be honest. And, yeah, we see Charles just go for the Gudra. And onto my turn. My hand right now is Prime Catcher, Boss, Research, and a bunch of junk. So the awkward part about this is I would kind of like to go like Prime Catcher Research and try to find some energy attachments, but then I have 0 gusting effects left. And Charles, he's a smart player. He would definitely notice this and once you have no gusting effects, you can kind of get ripped apart, right? Like Radzard can come in and I can't gust around it. Maybe Goodra attacks can keep happening and I can't get through them. So I felt like I just couldn't research here, which is really annoying because it's going to mean I don't get an energy attachment down. I mean, you're kind of bound to whiff some energy attachments when you prize 4 grass energies. So I guess this shouldn't have come as a surprise to me in the moment, but we're just going to go ahead, Ultra Ball for the Kyurem. And I think we're just going to have to use Boss this turn, and then maybe next turn we use Prime. I'm also thinking in this moment, like I wanted to play the Super Rod because I felt like maybe I'd get Iono'd. But now I don't have Super Rod, and so I don't have enough energies to attack with my next Drago, right? My active Drago is about to die, and I have 1 grass energy in my deck. 4 of them are prized, right? So I felt like in this moment I had to take prize cards, which is really bad because then I draw less off Iono, I activate Charles's Pheasantipede, I open up a bench space for him. So this whole position just felt very, very awkward to me. But I feel like I just needed to take prizes. I guess maybe I could have also not played Super Rod and then just like not taken prizes here and relied on using Super Rod after my Regidrago got knocked out. But like that doesn't feel great either. Then on my next turn, I need to find like Super Rod and then draw all the energies and then also find double E switch to attack. So it was like just a nasty position. I figured my out from here could be like I Halucha to kill the Fez, and then I have Prime Catcher left, so I could go like Prime Catcher plus Radzard, or maybe I set up another Drago, like Prime Catcher, use my Regidrago. So that's kind of what I'm playing for here. I also didn't want that Regidrago V on the bench to evolve and get out of Phantom Dive range. I thought that would be kind of awkward. And so, yep, Charles just comes in, knocks out my Regidrago V-Star, uses Goodra to do it. So a little bit awkward here. I did set up this Drago to be Radzarded, but after the Goodra, that's not going to work. So I end up drawing into my other Super Rod off this Iono, put back some energies, and I'm going to be looking to either make a big play here, some kind of like Prime Catcher Drago play, or I guess I could also just use Cleffa on this turn, right? I could Cleffa this turn, and then next turn go for like Halucha the Fez plus Prime Catcher Radzard the Ogerpon. So that's what I ended up doing. I just attached my Drago and I used the Cleffa. Obviously, my hand was not particularly good. So just going to have to Cleffa here. We are far enough ahead that I think it's okay. But there are a lot of annoying ideas for Charles here. I think the best thing he could do is like Goodra, one of our Ogerpons. He could potentially just like loss impact our Drago. That might be a viable option. I'm not entirely sure. Probably just Goodra and Ogerpon would be best here, but he has to play research, so he's going to need to use Prime Catcher if he wants to do that. Of course, he still does have access to his Prime Catcher, right? He didn't end up finding it on that one pivotal turn earlier in the game. And so I believe he ends up finding the Prime Catcher here. Yep, there it is. He's just going to go ahead, Prime Catcher up the Ogerpon, smack it with Goodra. Now, the good thing for me here is that I have 7-card hand, right? So I'm going to be able to hopefully find Prime Catcher, maybe some E-switches, and get a Drago attack off, take my last 4 prizes, and win the game. We see Charles, yep, go for the Goodra. Really smart play from him. Doesn't open up Pheasantipede, doesn't knock anything out, right? He's still going to be drawing a decent amount of cards from Iono, and he's also not activating my Radzard. So really clean play from Charles here, just not killing anything. I go ahead, set up my V-Star research. Notably, I discard my Halucha. So if I don't take out the Fez this turn with Dragapult, I don't have the option of Haluching it anymore, which is really annoying. And we end up whiffing our Prime Catcher. It's in the bottom 3 cards of our deck, so a little bit annoying here. And now I'm just trying to evaluate. I let Charles know that I got a little unlucky there, but it's not completely unreasonable to whiff here. And at this point, I think I'm pretty doomed. I can't take all 4 of my prizes, and if Charles just uses Dragapult to knock out like Mew and Ogerpon, he wins the game, and he's got 2 bosses orders left. So I ask him, I say, hey, is your Dragapult in the discard? And just kind of assuming it was there because I think he Ultra Balled for it earlier in the game at one point. So I think I knew it wasn't prized, but Dragapult's not in the discard. So I feel like maybe it's prized, or maybe it's like the bottom card of his deck or something. He only has 1 card in his deck at this point, or maybe 2. And so I figure my only chance is that he's prized his Dragapult, and at this point, I'm just trying to calculate if he prized his Dragapult, what is my best way to possibly win. And so I end up deciding I need to kill the Fez because I'm down my Halucha. That way I can still take 2 prizes next turn with Radzard, and then I just pile up on the Drago V on the bench. That way, if it comes in, I can knock it out with Radzard. And so now I've put myself in a position where if Charles doesn't have Dragapult, I should be pretty much locked to win the game. I also wasn't sure if Charles played Halucha at this point, because Halucha would also win him the game here. He could just like Halucha the Ogre Pawn and then Loss Impact. So I was thinking about like how I could play around that. But he actually shows me here, the Pult isn't prized, but he doesn't have a single way to discard it. Just kind of awkwardly ends up in the bottom few cards of his deck. And he knows I've got game in hand. I've got like Teal Masks and my Prime Catcher. I showed him my Prime Catcher. I've also got like a Research in my deck. So pretty sure I'm guaranteed on the next turn to just have Prime Catcher and a knockout. And so he scoops it up, and that's going to be the game. A really interesting game. One where like I couldn't call out any egregious misplays, but I just felt like the position I found myself in was so awkward that I must have done something wrong. So let me know in the comment section down below if you would have done anything differently on this one. Maybe play that Ultra Ball on turn 2 so I can Cleffa to draw more. Maybe not flipping my V-Star, or maybe on the Prime Catcher, I should have just sent up Ogre Pawn. That way I'm not committed to the V-Star. I'm not entirely sure. After IDing round 5, we run into Hunter in top 8, and he's going to be playing slow Guardy. Now, at the time, I know he's playing Guardy, but I didn't get a chance to watch any of his games close enough to know if it's slow Guardy or fast Guardy. So I'm definitely looking for some cues as to which version he's playing, because you definitely want to be playing differently if they're playing rare candies, right? If they're playing rare candies, you got to be a little more afraid of like big Drifloon KOs, whereas if they're not playing the rare candies, we're a little less afraid of the Drifloon KOs. We're a little more cautious of maybe a Manaphy coming down or Turos, right? I think the slow Guardy usually has 2 Turos, and so got to play differently there. Hunter actually Ultra Balls for Greninja on turn 1, tries to use the ability, let him know he's got a Klefki in the active, he can't do that. I asked him if he wanted to switch it for like a Ralts or whatever. He said, nah, it's all good. And we get into my turn where we start Cleffa, which has just got to be busted going second, right? So we have an Ogre Pawn. I actually debated not using the Prime Catcher in this spot. I felt like maybe he had more energies in hand, and this would let him like concealed cards and then retreat into the Klefki, reestablish the lock, whereas otherwise on his next turn he might have to retreat into the Ninja to use the ability, and then he can't get back into the Klefki. So I did consider not playing the Prime, but I figured just play the Prime, maybe get some Teal Mask activations off, and we're probably in a decent spot. Got a Research here, so I wouldn't want to like not use my Prime Catcher and then Research into like a bunch of grass energies, and then I can't Teal Dance. So go ahead, we Prime, and we take a little while on our prize check there. That's because nothing particularly important was prized, so we got to look for all the random cards. We go ahead, we use Teal Dance, we get some energies down, and we're going to have a very robust setup here. We've got double Drago, double Ogre Pawn. We've got a Vessel in hand there too, so we're going to be able to use another Teal Dance. This is pretty important, as presumably that Klefki is going to be coming back up into the active. Notably here, I do only Vessel for 1 grass. I think I maybe could have got 2 here, just to guarantee an attachment for next turn. But we do need some other cards too, right? Like we need to find a V-Star, we'd love to find a Research, and we have a lot of outs in our deck to grass energy, so I decided not to get that extra grass energy before using Grasping Draw. Hunter top decks an Iono, and all of a sudden we have a game here. He's got an energy on the Radiant Greninja as well. Maybe he actually had that Iono the whole time. I'm not entirely sure, but either way, we've got a bit of a game here, and he gets a Bravery Charm onto the Ralts, which is going to be some good protection for him. That way I can't cure him and kill the Ralts, but I don't think I would cure him here anyways. I really don't want to kill this Klefki. I want it to stay there. I am a little suspicious of it being slow Guardy, and if there's a Manaphy, I don't play Canceling Clone, so this Klefki being there is super valuable. I decide to go ahead and retreat and Goodra. Now, this does open me up to like Unfair Stamp plus Counter Catcher the other Drago, and then I just like brick and can't do anything for the rest of the game, so it might have been better for me to just go ahead and Cleffa here. I also had an Iono in hand that I just didn't play. I think I like that. Hunter having a really slow start, and he's not really shown much strength with his hand, so I didn't really want to Iono. There was nothing for me to really accomplish that turn anyways. I guess I could have got down a Mew EX, and that would have been pretty good. Maybe some Teal Dances, but it's all good. We get Unfair Stamped here, but no counter catcher, so we're feeling pretty good about that. We're going to be able to just rip Kyurem on this next turn. Hunter goes ahead, uses the Evo, and the significant thing about this is that the Bravery Charm is no longer active, so we go ahead, we Vessel, we get some energies. That's nice to get an attachment down on the Bench Drago, and then we Kyurem. And once Hunter realizes that the Manaphy was shut off by the Klefki, he just goes ahead and scoops it up. Klefki, usually Regidrago's number one enemy, but this time it was Guardy's own worst enemy. So we go up 1-0. Of course, we're playing best of 3 in top 8, and we're going to go ahead and get into the second game. In game 2, we have a much closer game, but we also start Kyurem in this game, which is really, really detrimental. Because we have a Kyurem in the active, it's got 2 retreat, it doesn't attack, but more so what we're worried about is that when our Kyurem is in play, our Kyurem can't be in the discard, and then our Regidrago V-Star can't copy its attack. So I think a little bit of a misstep from Hunter here. He puts down the Manaphy, but if he just never kills this Kyurem, he actually won't need Manaphy. And so I think that maybe a missed opportunity, could have gotten extra Ralts there. And we're definitely not feeling great about the situation. We do have Halucha, so we can get some multi-prize turns without the Kyurem, but we're definitely not happy with the current situation. And our hand is also completely dead until we top deck that Ultra Ball, which gives us, I guess a little bit of life in this game, but we're still pretty screwed. We can't use Squawk ability because there's a Klefki in the active. So literally all we can do here to draw cards is get Cleffa. You might have seen I have Switch in my hand, so technically we're gonna get to switch into Cleffa and draw a couple cards, and technically we're playing the game, but we're definitely in a terrible spot here. We do our prize check, and everything looks pretty standard. I don't think we prized anything important from what I remember, but we're definitely playing from behind on this one. Looks like I'm being a real slowpoke with the prize check too, for whatever reason. Typically, when I take forever on my prize check, it's because I didn't prize anything important. A little bit of a timing tell. If my opponents are really paying attention, they can know that if I get my prize check done really quick, then I probably have some bad prizes. So maybe I should work on that. Just even when my prizes are really bad, just take a while and look at my deck longer. But anyways, we do have a Jamming Tower, which is pretty much the only good thing we have going for us. It's going to block Hunter from using TM Evo, which is hopefully going to slow him down enough for us to get some Dragos going. Maybe start attacking with Pult. The best thing would be if Hunter killed our Kyurem. So we're kind of just hoping that maybe the Kyurem dies, or maybe Hunter's start is so slow that we can just start using Phantom Dive to build up a bunch of damage. Maybe Hunter can't find the Monkey Dory. He goes ahead, he Arven's here for Vessel and TM Evo. And he goes to Evo, and I let him know that there's a Jamming Tower in play, and he actually can't Evo. Not sure if he could have done something better there. Maybe he could have just got an Ultra Ball and got a second Kirlia. That doesn't sound particularly good either. He would have had to discard some good cards from his hand, but probably would have been a little bit better. Anyways, back over to me. I go ahead, E-switch onto the Drago, get the attachment down here, and I'm definitely just going to end this turn with another Cleffa. Hunter's got a pretty small hand, so I don't really want to play this Iono. I've already made my energy attachment for a turn, so there's not really anything else I can do. I can't attack. I can't use Ogerpon. I can't really do anything useful here. So I figure, what's the point of having Iono? I go ahead, Ultra Ball for the Pult. That's going to be, pretty much our only attacker in this game. Hopefully we can use it to just wipe out some Kirlias, and maybe we can kind of just run over Hunter from there. Then we go ahead and use Cleffa, draw some cards. Now that Ultra Ball got Pult. It could have got a second Drago V or an Ogerpon, but I figure my Drago is relatively safe here. Hunter would need Boss's Orders, Monkey Dory Dark Energy, 3 energy on the Gardex. Just kind of ridiculous given how slow his turns have been up to this point. So I feel good just having one Regidrago, and we're just going to eat a Joust from this Klefki. You'll notice the TM Evolution staying in play because of that Jamming Tower. Of course, the tool has no effect, so it doesn't have the effect of being discarded. We go ahead, play Iono, and we'd like to attack this turn, but like I don't really know how good the attack actually is. It could potentially activate Pheasantipede. It would give Hunter Countercatcher. And I'm a little worried that like once he has Countercatcher, he might just bring in the Kyurem and start spamming my bench with Screamtail. So we don't really want that to happen. I think I'm waiting for potentially a boss's orders to really start playing the game, right? Wait to have a boss. At least then I can kill the Kirlia, maybe set up the other Ralt with some damage. And that way we can really hinder Hunter's setup. But when he puts down 2 more Kirlias at this point, we're feeling pretty bad about the situation. Not only do we start Kyurem, but our start has just been way too slow to put on any kind of pressure. Generally, when detrimental things happen, like starting Kyurem or like really bad prizes, you want to be really aggressive, right? Your best chance to win isn't playing a drawn out game, because as the game gets drawn out, your most powerful option is just gone, right? So just play a quick game, hopefully run them over is ideal. That's not going to happen here. Hunter gets out the Gardex, and at this point, I get a little bit suspicious that Hunter is going to use Monkey Dory to knock out my Cleffa, and in that case, I'm going to promote the Kyurem and hope he knocks it out here. And so that's kind of what happens. He goes ahead, he uses the Monkey Dory to knock out the Cleffa. Additionally, he has to retreat first, right? Because the Cleffa is or the Klefki, is currently shutting off his own ability. So he goes ahead, he retreats into the Gardex. We know we're not getting Screamtailed here now. So we go ahead, we set up the Kyurem, and Hunter knocks out the Kyurem with Gardevoir EX. Now that we have our Kyurem in the discard, we have some plays here. We could maybe like bring up the Manaphy, or not the Manaphy, sorry. We could bring up the Klefki and go for the Kyurem. That would leave us with no energies in play. Also, I'm not entirely sure if I have a boss's orders in hand. It looks like I don't currently have boss's orders. We go ahead, we Nestball for the second Ogerpon. I feel like I should probably be getting Pheasantipede here. I'm not sure why I'm not getting the Pheasantipede. Maybe it's like prized or in the discard. Not entirely sure, but okay. I mean, that makes a bit of sense. We have a double Teal Dance E-Switch. We get 2 Dragos powered up, and surely at this point we're looking for Prime Catcher to bring up that Klefki and use Kyurem, but I remember this now. I don't find the Prime Catcher, and at this point I go ahead, I Ultra Ball for the Pheasantipede, draw 3 more cards, hoping to find the Prime Catcher, right? If I draw Prime Catcher, I can kill like Kirlia, Monkey Dory, and then from there, hopefully Hunter just like can't really play the game, and I can maybe snag my last 3 prizes with like a Pult into a Kyurem, or like something like that. Maybe a Loss Impact into a Pult, something like that. Additionally here, like if I don't find the Kyurem, it's not the end of the world. We have this Hawlucha, so if we can't find the Prime Catcher to make the Kyurem play, then at least we can do this Phantom Dive play. Okay, I guess Pheasantipede must be like prized or in the discard, because I definitely would have got Pheasantipede here if it was available in the deck. So we just go ahead, get the Hawlucha, and Phantom Dive the Manaphy. Okay, this makes sense too. We put Hunter in an awkward spot right now. He either has to rebench Manaphy, which would bench lock him, or he could bench Drifloon, right, to one-shot us, but he can't do both. So if he does the Drifloon, we can just go ahead and like play a Kyurem, play an Iono, and then Kyurem like the Drifloon in both the Kirlias. And then if he plays the Manaphy down, of course, we can just Kyurem him again. And then he's not knocking out our Regidrago, which we're pretty happy about. So I think we're like a little bit afraid in this position of our Regidrago just getting bombed by Drifloon. And then I feel like from there, the game could get really awkward. But we see the Manaphy come down, which is, makes sense to me. And Hunter's got a boss's orders as well. So that boss is going to let him take out an Ogerpon. Now his path to victory is becoming a little more apparent. He's going to knock out this Ogerpon, and then he's down to 2 prizes. Just 1 Drifloon, blow up a Regidrago V-Star, and then he'll win the game. But we're not going to let that happen. We're definitely going to be looking to make a big play here. I think ideally I would go like Iono Hunter to 2, bring up his Klefki, and then Kyurem. Definitely knock out both the Kirlias, and then probably knock out anything but the Klefki. That way we leave the Klefki stuck in the active. The Gardevoir EX can't retreat, right? That seems pretty good to me. Would make it really hard for Hunter to pull off a Drifloon play. I remember in this position, Hunter has 2 Psychic Energies in his discard, so if these psychic energies are awkwardly trapped on the Gardevoir EX, then maybe they can't be used to make a big Drifloon play. And yes, that Pheasantipity was in my discard the whole time. Okay, that makes sense. We go ahead, toss it back into the deck with Super Rod and Nustball to get it back out. You'll see that Prime Catcher still in the deck. Also, Iono is still in the deck, so we're hoping to draw into at least one of those pieces. Maybe we can V-Star for the other. It's a little bit awkward if we have to V-Star for Prime Catcher here, and then Kyurem, because then we don't have our Prime Catcher, right? And then we have a 3-energy Drago trapped in the active. So because I Fez here, I actually whiff the Prime Catcher and the Iono, and so I just decide to settle for a Boss's Orders here. Like, I could V-Star for Iono Prime, but then I don't have my Prime Catcher, and it'd probably be difficult for me to close out the game. I have this Regidrago V-Star with no energies, like awkwardly trapped in the active. So I really didn't like the sound of that. And I figured that Hunter actually needed a lot to win here. I go ahead and bundle, mostly just to get rid of the bundle in case we get Iono'd. We're going to continue on that train, just like attaching to Fez. We'll see if I have any other junk to get rid of here, but generally the idea here, he's got a pretty big hand, but in order to win, he's going to need Turo, right? Because the 3 energies are on the Gardevoir, 2 are in the discard. So if we go Kyurem here, we knock out not the Klefki, right? We go, I guess, maybe Curlia, Munkidori sounds pretty good to me. We go down to 2 prizes. We can either kill the Gardevoir EX or Phantom Dive the Klefki on the next turn. And as long as Hunter doesn't have Stadium Bump, Bravery, Charm, Drifloon, Turo, and you would also need a way to discard an energy. So you'd have to have like Ultra Ball, a Psychic Energy, Charm, Turo, Ultra Ball for the Drifloon, and Stadium Bump. So I figured like that's kind of a ridiculous combo. Like, yes, he could have it. He has like an 8-card hand or something, but I think it's also completely plausible that he just doesn't have it. And if I flip my V-Star to play the Iono, my endgame just gets like really, really awkward. Like, I don't know if I even had the resources to get out of the active. I might have Switch left. I can't completely remember, but if I drew Prime Catcher off the Fez, then I definitely could have gone like Prime Catcher, V-Star, bring back Iono Prime Catcher, play the Iono, and then I would still have Prime Catcher. So that would have been good, but we didn't draw that. But at the end of the day, it does not matter here, as Hunter doesn't have the like 6-card combo. He's missing the Turo for sure, and I think he's also missing a way to discard an energy. So he's going to take a while here, try to piece it together. But at the end of the day, he just doesn't have the resources to close out the game here. And then on my next turn, I just flip my V-Star power, get Prime Catcher, bring up, I don't even know, the Gardevoir EX or the anything, and I just Phantom Dive or whatever attack, and I take my last 2 prizes. So that's going to close out this top 8 match, and we'll get into the top 4 match. All right, into our top 4 match. Charles is back. He was our round 4 opponent. He's playing Drago, of course. He's got the Iron Bundle in his list, and he's a strong player. So again, we're afraid not our favorite top 4 pairing, that's for sure, but we're going to go ahead and have a good game with Charles here. And in our first game, Charles won the coin flip. Him and I kind of have a laugh. We're not entirely sure. Do we go first? Do we go second? But Charles is going to end up going first in this one. We're both playing bundle, so I think this is correct. Just the chance that you just get the bundle play off on turn 2. I think it's like game winning. Also, if your opponent just starts Regidrago V and then they can't Cleffa, the game is like a complete blowout. So I think going first makes a lot of sense here. Charles kicks it off with a Teal Dance and a Vessel, discarding Mew EX. That's an interesting discard to me. I feel like Mew EX is like a good card in this matchup. So when he Vessels away Mew EX, I definitely think he's got like a strong holding, maybe like multiple basics, probably a supporter for next turn, something like that. But he ends up getting nothing from the Vessel, and then he Ultra Balls and rods everything back. And now it makes sense. He was just trying to rod everything back. He's going to just use Squawkabilly. His hand was completely dead, and when you bench Squawkabilly, you can't really afford to bench Mew, right? If you got Squawk and Mew. I think I remember there was a stream game, Isaiah Bradner versus a Japanese player, I believe, at LAIC this year. And what happens is if you put down Squawk and Mew, I could have just gone like Prime Catcher, Teal Mask, Kyurem, and then I get to hit the Teal Mask, the Squawk, and the Mew. And then you do it again, and you take 6 prizes and 2 attacks, which is pretty foul. So Charles, aware of that, doesn't bench the Mew EX, and he just has a fairly slow turn 1, gets a Drago and a Cleffa down, and we're going to go ahead and kick off our turn. We've got a little bit going on already. We start by using Teal Dance. Just hoping to draw into like a Nest Ball. From what I remember, I had this Vessel in my hand before Teal Dance and just didn't do it. So a bit of a misstep for me. I definitely should have Vesseled before using Teal Dance, right? Take some energies out of my deck, raise my odds of drawing into like a basic Pokemon or whatever else I need. I can't imagine energies is what I need here, but I think I just got a little bit lazy here at the League Cup. Didn't want to like shuffle my deck and draw, so definitely should have used the Vessel first. But we go ahead, we just Vessel for 1 Fire Energy. That's going to go onto our Regidrago V. And then I believe we just have a research here. Before I research, I have a little bit of an interesting decision. I have an E-Switch in my hand, so I could play this E-Switch, get the energy onto my Drago, but then I can't retreat into Cleffa, so I kind of didn't really know whether I should do it or not. I also thought, like, maybe I actually don't need to Cleffa this turn. I felt like Charles's start was really slow, and he didn't attach an energy, and I just felt like he wasn't going to attack next turn. So I decided to just E-Switch onto my Regidrago on the bench. Figured maybe on the next turn, if I need to go into Cleffa, I can, and I think it ended up working out. I don't know if this was correct. I think maybe it might have been better to just conserve the option of going into Cleffa, but from those 7 cards, I definitely did not have a way to even get into the Cleffa, but given the E-Switch, my hand's pretty good. I got like Regidrago V-Star, got an energy, I might have Prime Catcher, I'm not entirely sure, but onto Charles's turn, he just takes a pretty slow turn, goes ahead and uses Cleffa, so my read on my Regidrago V being safe was correct, and then I just attach and research here. I discarded Boss. I didn't want to go like Boss Tina and open up my only Regidrago V-Star to being KO'd. I play Bundle, so I could just hit the Bundle, which I do here, and I give a nice little flash to the camera. Bundle here, so good. Otherwise, like, I don't even know what this turn would be. Like, if you don't play Bundle in this spot, you're either committed to finding Prime Catcher or just, like, using Cleffa this turn or, like, potentially flipping for Egg, all of which just seem like terrible options to me. Charles makes a super smart play here. He sends up the Squawkabilly, which, like, at surface level, you're like, oh, the Squawkabilly gets knocked out by Goodra. That's bad, but it's actually good that the Squawkabilly dies for multiple reasons. It gives Charles Fez, and it means I draw less cards off Iono. It also opens up a bench space for Charles, whereas like if he sent up if he sent up something else, it would be stuck in the active. Like if he sent up Ogerpon and I hit it for 200, now he has to retreat. So really smart from Charles, a little bit of a non-intuitive play, but definitely forcing me to take a KO here is a good thing. I develop my board a little bit more, get the Drago down with an additional energy, and then I just go ahead and take the KO with Goodra. Onto Charles's turn. Another reason why Bundle is so good. If Charles didn't play Bundle here, this turn is really bad for him. He probably just has to like boss and hit something on the bench. But because he plays Bundle, he has a really feasible way to actually knock out my active Regidrago V-Star. So in this spot, I am concerned. If he wasn't playing Bundle, I'd feel like just so confident that this game was going to go my way. But this turn is going to be a sweat until he just rips the Prime Catcher without Bundle. Now we feel pretty good. We know that our Regidrago V-Star is going to survive, and because of that, we're likely going to be able to convert this into a win. I guess Charles must have somewhat of a weak hand here, because I'm sure he was aware of the Bundle play. It could have been warranted there to just flip V-Star, try to hit Bundle, then you can go like Bundle Prime, maybe like recover an E-Switch. I'm not sure I love that, but I do think from here, like if I have a playable hand, Charles is going to be in a rough spot. He finds the double E-Switch. That's good. Oh, interesting. Yeah, now he could just flip his V-Star to get the Prime Catcher back. Prime Catcher in the Drago V-Star and Tina. But he decides not to go for it, and he just goes for the Egg. This is a really interesting spot. I wonder what's actually correct. Very interesting. Yeah, 'cause my Regidrago V like could just be stuck here. I think his options... maybe Egg was actually his only option there. From what... Yeah, okay. I'm pretty sure he actually didn't have Tina. He might have had like Egg and like Polt or something, or Goo maybe. But I remember his options weren't particularly good there, so he just goes for the Egg. He flips what I have to imagine was the better option. This way my Regidrago is still stuck in the active. I go ahead, I Nest Ball for the Ogremon, or actually I think I Nest Balled for the Fez, but now I go ahead and Vessel, get some energies out, and what I'm looking to do here is just set up a second Regidrago V-Star. I think I have all the cards in hand. Oh, maybe not. Okay, I use the Mew to draw one, and then I Iono. At this point, I remember I had no researches left in my deck. Usually it would be correct to use Serendipity, try to draw research, but I knew I had no researches, so I figured it'd be better to Iono first, draw my 4 cards, and then draw an additional 3. Right, it would have been awkward if I like used Fez first, Fezzed into like maybe a Vessel, and then I Iono into an attacker, right? And as this way, if I draw all my cards, I have the Vessel and the attacker at the same time. I can discard them, and it just makes for a little more of a cohesive draw. Yeah, you see here, I've got the Vessel and the Kyurem now. Imagine if the Vessel was in the top 3 and then the Kyurem was in the next 4. If I Fezzed first, that would have been kind of awkward. I wouldn't have got to discard it. And then I also would have ended this turn with less cards in my hand. So I think that makes a lot of sense from me. And I draw into the Prime Catcher here. I bring up the Ogerpon, and I just hit it for 200 with Goodra. I pop out the Hawlucha and the Prime Catcher to the side there, kind of showing Charles that on my next turn, I'm just going to V-Star for Prime Catcher, bring up any 2-prizer, and then get the Hawlucha. Hawlucha is going to kill the Ogerpon, and that's going to close out the game. I probably could have found a way to close out this game without the Hawlucha, but Hawlucha definitely makes it a little bit nice here. Otherwise, I don't know how I would have been closing out this game. I probably would have had to Loss Impact this Ogerpon, and then used Loss Impact again to take the next 2. It probably would have been okay, but Hawlucha here makes it pretty locked up, and at some point, yeah, here it is. Charles kind of realizes what's going on and realizes he can't do anything about it. So we go up 1-0 against Charles, and we're going to go on into Game 2. Getting into Game 2, Charles switches up, and he decides to try going second. Going first didn't work out for him too well in Game 1, so he's going to go for a new approach. I do start Cleffa, so if I went second, I imagine that Cleffa start would have been pretty nice, but it's still going to be good, right? We can always Cleffa on the next turn. And we're going to go ahead and do our prize check on our initial Nest Ball. From what I remember, nothing of particular importance was prized there. We just go ahead and Nest Ball for an Ogerpon. I think if anything, it was like 1 boss, 1 E-Switch, and like some irrelevant cards. Go ahead and give our deck a good shuffle. We did just pretty much completely sort it. At this point, it's top 4 of the League Cup. We're getting a little more serious. We're doing our full prize check, even prize checking like Earthen Vessels, Ultra Balls, Nest Balls. So these prize checks are going to be a little more extensive. After using Teal Dance, we use Vessel. Again, I wonder if I was just being lazy or if I Teal Danced into that Vessel, but or maybe I held the Vessel with the reason. Actually, okay, sometimes it could make sense to hold the Vessel with the reasoning of like if you Teal Dance into an attacker, then you can discard it with the Vessel. So maybe that's what I was thinking there, or maybe I just Teal Danced into the Vessel. Either way, we get a pretty normal average turn 1. We get the Drago down with the attachment. We get a Teal Dance off. We got Cleffa in the active, so we're feeling pretty good about our life. One other interesting thing in this spot is I remember I have Prime Catcher in hand, so I thought maybe it would be good to retreat the Cleffa into the Ogerpon here. The problem with this play is I think it really signals to Charles that I have Prime Catcher, right? Because now on my next turn, right, I have Prime Catcher and Research. So when I play Prime Catcher, I need to send something up that's not Cleffa, which is awkward and kind of commits me, right? So I remember in the Swiss game, I Prime Catchered and I just sent up my Regidrago V, and then I whiffed the attack, and it's really awkward. So I'm like, oh, do I flip V-Star, right? Whereas like if I retreated my Cleffa into Ogerpon on this turn, next turn I could have Prime Catchered, sent up the Cleffa, and then had the free retreat. But Charles Ionos us, so if we did that, it would have backfired in our face, as we would have had Ogerpon in our active, and then no Prime Catcher, so we would have had to like retreat or something. We see Charles go ahead, Nest Ball is going to get the Cleffa down. Probably just going to go ahead, retreat into that. Gets down a second Regidrago V, that's always nice. And I remember he kind of hems and haws about whether or not to bundle here. At the end of the day, he decides to go for the bundle. This does a couple things. One, it just removes the bundle from his board. That prevents me from going like Phantom Dive on the bundle and Cleffa, or like Kyurem, for example, to kill both. It also forces my Ogerpon into the active, which is a little bit awkward. I'm going to lose a Grass Energy pretty much no matter what here. My Prime Catcher was on the bottom. I get a good shuffle in there, but we are just going to have to retreat this Ogerpon, unless we draw like Switch or something, but it is going to be -1 energy. We go ahead and we rip a research here, looking for the Iron Bundle. Again, Iron Bundle puts in so much work in this matchup. We went first, turn 2, Iron Bundle. We have Goodra in the discard, and Charles has to send up a Pokemon. This time, he doesn't have the Squawkabilly, so his decision's a little more difficult. He's going to have to send up a Pokemon that doesn't get knocked out, which is just so good for me. Additionally, his bundle's in the discard now, so I'm a little bit less afraid of like the bundle prime catcher play that I had mentioned earlier. And this is just going to be a really nice spot for us. And like I said, like if we didn't have bundle here, right, we probably just have to Cleffa, and then Charles has bundle, and then he just bundles us, and then we're in this disaster of a spot. So I really highly value this bundle card in Mirror, and it's kind of just a good card generally as well. We go ahead, we Ultra Ball for Mew. This is kind of a staple of my turn 2 in the Mirror. Pheasantipede doesn't do too much, as oftentimes players are going to be looking to not take KOs like I'm doing here, just kind of setting up damage, maintaining the ability to draw 6 cards off Iono, not opening up bench spots, not accessing or not allowing access to Pheasantipede for your opponent. I feel like a bit of a broken record here, but these ideas are really important and part of what makes Regidrago so strong. Right? It's honestly playing Regidrago Mirror is so annoying because usually you get to do all these things to your opponents, right? Like you deny their Fez, you lock their bench, you spread damage. And then when the other person is also doing that, it's really annoying, especially because Regidrago isn't really built to deal with that. You'll see like sometimes like games against Gardevoir even can go the distance, and Gardevoir can get some setups that you just can't really deal with, like the Monkey Dory. And in Drago Mirror, it's like the Kyurem and the Pult. There's a lot of stuff going on. Also, something interesting to note here, Charles doesn't play Hawlucha, which makes the Mew EX a lot better. If Charles plays Hawlucha, there's ideas of like Phantom Dive putting 6 damage counters on the Mew, and then like Hawlucha Kyurem killing like this active Drago and the Mew in one attack, and then also setting up 110 on something else. So that's a play I've gone for before, but at this point we're becoming a little more confident that Charles is not playing Hawlucha, so that's nice for us. And at this point, Charles' only attacking options are Tina and Kyurem, which are a little bit awkward, but our options are not much better. We could go for the Goodra here. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. We are damaged. From what I remember, and based on the fact that I'm taking forever here, I imagine that my hand is not particularly good. I think my hand is like Boss, Prime, plus something unplayable. And so, yeah, I actually just opt to Boss in the other Regidrago V-Star. I'm not entirely sure about this play, but I felt like if I did this, there was a high chance that Charles either wouldn't attack or would have to flip his V-Star to attack. And it also let me draw a card off Mew, and it also sets up both the Dragos to be Kyuremed, and it also means that I don't knock anything out, right? So again, we're not activating his Fez, we're drawing more cards off Iono, etc. I think I did this because I felt like if I just Goodra'd the other one, and then Charles went like Iono attack, my deck just might kind of fall apart. But in hindsight, I don't think I really like this play. I think I would have liked to have seen just like Phantom Dive kill the other Drago. Oh yeah, sorry, I actually used Phantom Dive here, not Goodra. So that's actually a little bit relevant. The bench Drago now has 260 damage on it as opposed to 200. I think a lot of players would have opted to put 10 on the Ogerpon here, but I think that's actually kind of a huge mistake. I don't want that Ogerpon to have damage. Right, later in the game, I could bring it up and Ogerpon it for 200, continue this idea of like not killing things, and I really value that. So I decided not to put any damage on that Ogerpon, and this kind of blows up in our face. Charles sets up a whole Regidrago here, and he flips V-Star. I'm not entirely sure what the V-Star was for here. I'm thinking, oh, actually, I think it's because he doesn't have a good attacker. I think he just has like Egg and Tina in the discard. Maybe that's why he's going for the flip V-Star here. But he ends up just getting back Nest Ball and E-Switch. Oh, I see. He wants to get down a third Drago. Right. Because if he doesn't get down a third Drago, I could just like Phantom Dive, kill both the Dragos, and then he's in a terrible spot. Okay. Oh, and he just goes for the Kyurem. Okay. Yeah, maybe he was also looking for another attacker there. I think I remember after the match he told me Gudra was prized this game from what I remember, or maybe it was the Pult that's prized. Not entirely sure, but anyways, he goes ahead, just rips the Kyurem. A little bit of an awkward situation now. Charles has a massive hand, so I don't really want to pass it back here. There are ideas of just like using Cleffa here, but I felt like if I just used Cleffa, it was pretty plausible for Charles to have like Boss, double E switch, Fire, Ogre Pawn, kill my Drago, and like basically just end the game on the spot. Maybe I was afraid of monsters in the closet there. I don't know if it's actually reasonable for him to have it, but from this perspective, his hand looks bigger than his deck at this point. So, and I know he has E-Switch. He recovered it from the V-Star. So I have to imagine that if I just ripped Cleffa here, which is definitely an option, that my Drago might be dying and the game would be over. I also don't like that I used the Prime Catcher here. I did it to try to draw another card off of Mew and hit the Iono without using my V-Star, but what I didn't realize at the time was that that Prime Catcher was actually my last gusting effect, and I think I'm realizing it here now that I'm looking at my discard that both my boss are in there. So I think that was actually a massive punt. When I played the Prime Catcher, I thought I still had another boss left. I'm not sure how I had such a slip there, but I thought I had another boss, so I used the Prime to bring up the Ogre Pawn. The idea being that if I could use Phantom Dive this turn, I could put some damage on the bench. I could put the Regidrago V-Star on the bench either to 10 HP left, or maybe I could just kill it. And then later on in the game, so for example, I could go like 30 damage on the Regidrago V, 20 damage on the V-Star, 10 damage on the other V-Star, and take 2 prizes. And then I'm set up to like Hawlucha the Ogre Pawn and Radzard any of the Regidrago V-Stars for game. So that's what I'm going for here, but I end up whiffing the attack and I get punished super hard because now I don't have access to any gusting effects. Also, maybe it would have been a good idea to bring up the Regidrago V. It has a large retreat cost, so if we brought it up, I'd have a hard time getting out of the active, and we might get a free turn that way as well. I also felt like if I got the Phantom Dive off that turn, it was very plausible that with this Iono, Charles just wouldn't get an attack off. So this is another interesting spot where I felt like I had to V-Star mostly just to play Iono. I think if I had an Iono, I would have felt comfortable going Iono Cleffa, but I didn't feel comfortable leaving Charles with like a 10-card hand when I only had one Drago. So I just ended up flipping the V-Star there to, get some use out of it, play the Iono. So I think at the end of the day, what I would have liked to see me do there was don't Prime Catcher, flip the V-Star, play Iono, and then just Cleffa. Off to Charles, he's got a couple energies in play. He plays an Iono of his own. Pretty solid draw, actually, from 4 cards off Iono. His deck is getting very thin, so maybe I shouldn't be so surprised that he's having a strong draw here. I imagine the contents of his deck are rather limited. He goes ahead, super odds, puts back his 3rd Regidrago V-Star. Pretty funny to see 3 Regidragos on the board here. And then he's just going to go ahead and retreat and Cleffa. Now, like I said, I am out of gusting effects at this point, which definitely should not have happened, but here we are, so we got to try to figure out a way to win the game. And I think it's all going to revolve around Kyurem. I think if I continue to do nothing, eventually my Regidrago is going to die. Charles has both of his boss's orders left, so I definitely can't afford to keep doing nothing. And I think what I'm going to go for here is like Kyurem, kill both the Dragos, 110 on the other Drago V. That way, if it comes up, I could potentially just Radzard it. Even through a potential Gudra attack, I could kill that Drago V with Radzard. And from what I remember, I also don't have access to Bundle, which is a major issue. I think if I had Bundle left, it would have been correct to just kill the Cleffa with this Trifrost. That way I would have protected myself from like Radzard. Because I think here if Charles just goes in with Radzard, I can't really win because I have no gusting effects. He would take 2 prizes. I couldn't really do anything about it. I could like maybe kill the Radzard. I can't make another Drago to Phantom Dive like the Radzard and the Cleffa. It all goes back to that turn I played Prime Catcher. I just thought I had one more Gust. If I got to this spot and I have like one boss left, it's completely fine because I could have like thinned down really well and I have some researches left over. Or I guess it would actually not be fine because I would need to research. So, 'Even regardless of me not having one boss left, or having no boss left, I think I could have like thinned down really well and I have some researches left over. Or I guess it would actually not be fine because I would need to research. So, even regardless of me not having one boss left, I think I could have like thinned down really well and I have some researches left over. I I think that Prime Catcher a couple turns ago was just really, really bad. Yes, if I hit the Phantom Dive, it would have been good, but there was just no need for me to risk it. I could have just used Cleffa there. I think I got a little bit greedy, maybe thought I was like very favored to find the energy switch and pull off the attack, but even if I was very favored, I think it was just not necessary. And onto Charles's turn, you see he actually discards the Radzard in the switch, so he doesn't see it. Maybe he doesn't realize all my boss's orders are in the discard. I'm not entirely sure, but he goes for some kind of stall play, trying to deny me that Radzard. Of course, the Ogerpon can just attack and knock him out, but anything other than the Radzard play there would have been no good. Just Radzard, double E-switch, fire energy, knockout. In the finals of the League Cup, we run into Riyadh, another strong player of the Pokemon GTA community, but he's going to be playing Roaring Moon here, which I consider to be, honestly, a very good matchup for me. I think there's a couple things going well for me. One, there's ideas of like double Kyurem plays. We got the Hawlucha, so we can even Kyurem the Roaring Moons, which I think is pretty significant. And then there's also ideas of just like spamming Radzard, like one would do against Raging Bolt. And then there's also ideas of when we get to go second, we could potentially actually take the lead in the prize trade with Ogerpon. It's not outrageous to go like Teal Dance, attach, E-switch, kill Roaring Moon. You know, especially if Riyadh starts with the Roaring Moon or we start with the Prime Catcher in our hand, you know, we can use the Squawk ability. And I think if that ever happens, we win the game on the spot. So a lot of different routes for us to win. The main route for us to lose is going to be having bad draws. Riyadh, of course, playing a couple copies of Judge. So that's always something that could go wrong there. This first game, from what I remember, the prizes weren't too bad. I think they were relatively standard, and we're off to a relatively good start as well. We have a Drago, we got some energies in play, we got the Squawk ability, going to draw some cards. We're looking for Cleffa, we're looking for a second Drago. We end up finding both, but I would have been put in a tough spot if I only found one Nest Ball there. I think if I only had one Nest Ball, I would have just got Regidrago V, and then I would have probably just left Ogerpon in the active, honestly. And then that way, even if Riyadh takes a 2-prize knockout, we can still go like Kyurem and win the prize trade. If I didn't have Hawlucha in my deck, then I probably would prioritize the Cleffa, as then I wouldn't have that double Kyurem line so locked up, right? Like without Hawlucha, I think it's fairly reasonable for Riyadh to play a board with only two like 220 HP or less Pokemon. But Riyadh also knows I play Hawlucha, so I imagine he's just going to go ahead and like fill his board with a bunch of junk, knowing that he can just get Hawlucha anyways. So off to his turn. He starts Fez, can't be the ideal starter, but probably not so bad. He's got Pecharunt and Latias. I'm not entirely sure. Probably one of each, honestly, in his deck, so he'll have some mobility for sure. He's going to get down some basics. He's got the Squawk, the Roaring Moon, bunch of energies in the discard, and we saw the use of the Pokestop. I think the best thing Riyadh could do here is like Judge, Prime Catcher, and take a knockout. But that's kind of ridiculous, so he decides to just discard the Judge. He's looking for Professor Sawdust. That way he can actually get an attack off. So I think that's probably correct here. He also could have gone like just use Bundle and then play Judge. It feels a lot worse, especially because he knows I have this double Kyurem line. I think he really needs to aggressively target down my energies so that I can't just go like double Kyurem and there's nothing he can do about it, right? He's playing Latias and Pecharunt. It wouldn't make a lot of sense for him to be playing something like Switch Cart. If he plays Bravery Charms, we can get the Jamming Tower involved and shut those off, but I don't think he has Bravery Charms either. Yep, we see the Latias retreat, and then he actually whiffs the attack here and just has to pass, so pretty huge for me. I get to keep my energy, and I'm in a little bit of a weird spot. I'm trying to debate, like, if I go for the attack this turn. I think that Pokestop would have given me Ultra Ball, which for some reason I thought was really huge. I think the Ultra Ball would have just maybe let me get a Regidrago V-Star, or yeah, probably just could have got V-Star with Ultra Ball. I'm not entirely sure why I decided to Pokestop there, because I think we're just going to go for a research anyways. Oh, it's actually Iono. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I guess I had maybe some cards in hand I wanted to discard with the Ultra Ball, but I think it actually would have been better for me to wait and Pokestop after this Iono. That way I just like can amass a larger hand at once, right? Maybe I like Iono into some Pokemon I want to discard, and then I can Pokestop into the Ultra Ball, right? And then that's pretty good. So we do it this way, and it all ends up working out. We get the Regidrago V-Star out, and now I'm just debating what attack to use. It could be like Gudra here, but that just seems kind of terrible. I don't know what other options I had. Maybe like Polt could have made some sense, but I just go for the Kyurem here. I kind of just commit that all I need to do is get 2 Kyurem attacks off and I'll win the game. I don't even have to like attack with Kyurem on the next turn. I could just like next turn use Cleffa, and then on the turn after that use Kyurem because we got the first attack off. So I'm feeling really, really good about this spot. I put damage on the Roaring Moons, which I also think is a mistake. The idea was that if he used Frenzied Gouging, then he would knock himself out and I would get to draw some prize cards. I felt like that maybe boosted my consistency a little bit. I would get to draw some cards, but in hindsight, I think it should have just gone on like Latias, Squawk, Fez. And then that way I don't actually even need the Hawlucha to make the Kyurem play. So I think I actually made it a little harder on myself than it should have been. I go ahead and start off my turn with Prime Catcher with the mindset of I'm probably just going to use Cleffa this turn, but it is entirely possible that I could just like actually get the attack off here if I research. Oh, sorry. It was actually impossible for me to get the attack off this turn, and I didn't realize it at this point because I have to bench 2 Ogre Pawns, and that means I can't bench Hawlucha. So a little bit of a punt from me, actually. I researched away the grass energy there, thinking that I was going for the game. Like I was like, oh, if I draw fire energy, I want to be able to attach that and attack. But it's actually impossible for me to win the game on this turn. So I definitely should have just attached that grass energy before the research. A little bit of a miss from me, but we're still in a really good spot here. We've got 2 Regidrago V-Stars, so even if one of them gets knocked out, we've got another one waiting. We're going to get to Cleffa here, draw a bunch of cards. We've got 2 Ogre Pawns in play, and then we're just going to go ahead, Cleffa for 7. We are board locked out of Hawlucha, but I don't think it really matters. Riyadh is going to have to knock something out. He doesn't have any kind of tricks, right? Like Regidrago has Phantom Dive, so they can take 2 KOs at once. Gardevoir has Monkey Dory, they can do that as well, but his Roaring Moon deck really just has to knock out Pokemon one at a time, so I felt pretty comfortable just board locking myself. Having 2 Ogre Pawns down is nice. I didn't want to like not bench Ogre Pawn and then have one get knocked out and get judged, and then it might have been kind of awkward. For some reason, I didn't want to bench Fezandipity. Maybe it's in the discard, or maybe the Fez is prized. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it would have made a lot of sense for me to put down Fez here instead of the second Ogre Pawn. So maybe that Fez is prized here. But anyways, from Riyadh, he's in kind of a paralyzing spot. He knows that this Kyurem is coming, so he's just going to go ahead, Lumineon for Judge, make it as difficult as possible for me to get this KO. He's also going to need to find like some kind of gusting effect here, Pokemon Catcher or whatever. So it's a little bit awkward. If he does whiff, it's like maybe okay because I can't actually win the game. I can't bench the Hawlucha, of course, but honestly, even if I were to just like Kyurem and then have like Boss plus Hawlucha for a game later on, like that seems pretty free. So I could like Kyurem and just like put 220 on all the moons. But I remember Riyadh here actually ends up whiffing the Pokemon Catcher, and so good on him. He doesn't kill the Cleffa. He actually decides to just pass, which I think is a super heads up play. I think killing the Cleffa would be terrible. It would open up my bench spot for Hawlucha. It doesn't like progress his prize map at all. Right, he's got 4 prizes. He wants to kill two rule box Pokemon in order to win the game. Now, up to me, I feel like honestly just under no pressure in this situation. I'm pretty committed to just using Cleffa again this turn. Just make it as likely as possible that I'll be able to win the game once he knocks something out, because eventually he does have to knock something out. If I can get the attack off here, I think I will. Like if I draw into like Prime Catcher plus Polt, maybe. Or actually, I don't even need Prime Catcher. I could just go like Polt here, 200 on the Fez, kill the Squawk, and then that way, if a Roaring Moon comes in and uses Frenzied Gouging on my Drago, then I can just bench Hawlucha and kill Fezandipity for game. And then if the Regidrago doesn't die, surely I'll be able to like Phantom Dive, kill Fez, kill like anything, right? So I think the Phantom Dive here makes a lot of sense. I also think it would have been completely okay for me to just like spread out my energies on my 2 Regidragos and just keep waiting for Riyadh to kill something and then just go for the 6 prize Kyurem. But he kind of realizes he can't win. I've got my V-Star up still, so I can just V-Star for like Halucha if I need it, or any other attacker. And I'm going to go up 1-0 in this series pretty quickly and pretty convincingly. In the second game, I had the option of starting Radiant Charizard or Squawkabilly. Then, of course, I top decked the Cleffa, but I thought just starting the Radzard was a little better. I felt like Riyadh wasn't going to knock out this Radzard. He was just going to kill the Squawkabilly anyways, so at least this way I force him to like have a Pokemon catcher. I could hear an argument that starting the Squawkabilly is better, because now I have this Radzard like awkwardly stuck in the active. It's got a 3 retreat cost. If Riyadh has a slow start, I won't be able to go into Cleffa, right? Like imagine I play my turn, and then Riyadh goes like draw pass, and then I just have to go draw pass because I have this stupid Radzard in the active instead of Squawk. So there definitely is a downside to this Radzard. Of course, the upside is that it's just a 1 prize Pokemon. If I'm able to bench like a Regidrago here, it'd be really good. And then like he would never kill the Radzard, because if he kills the Radzard, then he's on odd prizes. I come in with the Drago, and it's just bad news for him. I end up Ultra Balling for Tealmask Ogerpon in this spot. I've got a couple energies in hand, and from what I remember, Mewex is prized. Now, this is really awkward because my hand is actually completely dead. I have 1 Nest Ball and nothing else. I think I have like Nest Ball, Vessel, and that's all. So I think a lot of players here would have just like, oh, I've got a Regidrago V-Star. Okay, so I could have Nest Balled for Regidrago V there, which would have been interesting, right? Because then maybe next turn I can evolve into the V-Star and flip my V-Star power and like play the game. The problem with that is Riyadh's deck is built to attack the bench. If I bench that Regidrago V, I think a large percentage of the time Riyadh just kills the Regidrago V, and then my hand is dead and I'm kind of screwed. Whereas at least this way, if Riyadh kills like my Ogerpon, I can put down Fezandipity, draw some cards, I can Vessel, maybe get the Radzard attack off, and like kind of stay in the game. And basically just like play this game without a Regidrago V-Star, which is kind of funny. But anyways, off to Riyadh's turn. He's got some energies in play. He's got the Squawk, the Ninja, a lot of good stuff going on here for him. The one awkward thing, of course, is that I have this Radzard in the active. I don't think he really wants to kill this. I mean, the dream scenario for me is that Riyadh just like kills this Radzard for some reason, and then I get to Vessel for double grass energy, attack with the Tealmask, Nest Ball for Fezandipity, and then my board is just super stable, right? Then I would have Fezandipity drawing me cards. I would have an Ogerpon that has to be answered because it would just blow through his entire board. And then from there, I'd probably just be able to chain some Radzard attacks. And honestly, I could probably win the game without ever attacking with Regidrago V-Star. But Riyadh's a smart guy. He's not going to kill this Radzard. I imagine that even if he whiffs the attack here, he'd probably just pass and not KO the Radzard. I think that's a much better play. This Radzard is like awkwardly stuck there, right? So a little interesting, kind of makes me think even more so that I should have started Squawkabilly right here. I could have the Squawkabilly in the active. If the Squawkabilly dies, I get to Fez, I get the Radzard. But of course, I didn't know that I was going to kind of like squawk into this really terrible hand. So Riyadh just decides to go ahead and motivate, set up 2 Roaring Moons. He knows when I start Radzard, he can go for some kind of slow play. And now I decide to Nest Ball for the Regidrago V, which I think makes just like no sense. If I was going to hold the Nest Ball on the first turn with fear of my Regidrago being knocked out, I should definitely continue to do so, as now the odds that my Regidrago gets knocked out are surely even higher than turn 1, right? There's 6 energies in play on the moons. Any Pokemon catcher, Prime catcher, Boss's orders even is going to result in a KO. So I think I either needed to risk it on turn 1 and just get the Drago and hope it didn't die, or wait on turn 2 and continue playing for Fezandipity EX here. And that's exactly what happens. Riyadh just goes ahead and Prime catchers up the Drago, knocks it out, and I'm in a terrible, terrible spot here. I think in hindsight, what I was supposed to do was just bench the Regidrago on turn 1. Hopefully Riyadh doesn't knock it out, and then I can capitalize. I can flip my V-Star. I think I also should have started Squawkabilly, right? Imagine I start Squawkabilly, and then I bench the Regidrago, hope Riyadh whiffs. If he whiffs, I'm in a great spot. I can flip my V-Star, get set up, potentially get an attack off, and play from there. But I started Radzard, and then I didn't bench the Drago. And then even worse, I decided to bench the Drago on the next turn. So kind of upset at myself for this one. From here, Riyadh, I mean, he's got a 10-card hand. I don't have an Iono. Give you a little bit of a spoiler. I don't end up top decking anything useful on the next turn. So what ends up happening, Riyadh kills the Ogerpon. I kill him with the Radzard. And then he just kills my my Squawkabilly with another Moon. So this is what happens when you don't have hand disruption, right? These kind of flowchart games where you're behind 2 prizes and the person who's ahead just stays ahead because you don't have good Ionos. Also, I'm killing something every turn with Radzard, and then after this game, my camera actually cut out, but he ends up like basically donking me in game 3. So maybe it's good I didn't record it, but we end up getting 2nd place in this League Cup to Riyadh. Overall, I was actually pretty disappointed with my play in this League Cup. Of course, yes, like I did get 2nd in the League Cup, but I felt like a lot of my wins were free wins and a lot of my losses were my fault. So definitely some stuff for me to work on here. Maybe I was a little bit sleepy on this Saturday morning, but that's all for today's video. I hope you guys learned something. I definitely learned something from watching my own video today. So that's pretty cool. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video.